Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
In the Western world, there's definitely this thought that time is linear, that it's just straight, it just goes backwards and forwards. But I think time is this beautiful spiral that goes outward and inwards and backwards and forwards. And we can sort of time travel with the things that we create. And for me, it's food.
For Nia Lee, food is a sensory experience beyond a delicious meal. As a Black food futurist, culinary artist, and activist, they approach the world with wonder, curiosity, and most importantly, play. Play is something we so often forget to make time for. In today's global world, filled with day-to-day responsibilities, to-do lists, and media overload, it can be challenging to carve out moments for thoughtful exploration. But what happens when we do give ourselves permission to play? Do our worlds become more vivid and vibrant? Our senses more alive? When we give way to play, food can take us to unexpected places. So today, we're going to explore creativity in the culinary playground. I'm H. Conley, and this is Meat and 3 on HRN.
Meat and 3.
Meat and 3.
Meat and 3.
1 meat, 3 sides.
Food, news, and storytelling.
A square meal. For your ears.
Meat and 3.
As adults, there are very few opportunities to just enjoy bubbles. But today, we're sitting down for a bubble dinner. That's right, you heard me, a bubble dinner. Our first story takes us into the heart of the LA food scene with Kiki Canuto and the curious food creators at play in the City of Angels.
I'm not exactly sure why I'm sitting outside on a summer day for over an hour at a cookbook panel, but I know why I'm staying. I'm captivated by Nia Lee, SoCal-based chef and artist. As a creator, they're focused on their passion for food of the future, Black food future to be exact. They remind me of how important it is for artists to not only share their stories, but to shape them as well.
Food was always at the backbone of everything that I was doing. So I actually started Stormy Supper Club, which is a supper club geared towards Black and brown, queer, and trans people to build communities and to create spaces for dreaming up freer futures for us all.
Stormy Supper Club, named after lesbian civil rights icon Stormy DeLavier, is home to immersive dinners and talks for the Black queer community. It centers on
Black food futurism as a dreaming and imaginative food practice, art practice, community building practice. That's how I really started to flesh out Stormy Supper Club as an incubator, as a safe space, as a safe haven.
And it's also a playground for creativity. Nia's work is intentional and filled with storylines bigger than all of us. In one of their favorite dinners,
I filled the room with bubbles, and I had this whole menu inspired by bubbles, and I was thinking about the bubble as a metaphor for shape-shifting, how to find levity in this world that is like so bogged down, right? And then also the temporality of everything, the bubble pops.
The bubble dinner is a perfect example of what happens when a chef's artistic imagination runs free. When they stay curious about life, they can bring meaning to the simplest of things. It's in these spaces and moments that artists are reminded of their why in life.
I really want to know what's on the underbelly of folks. And that, to be honest, like it impacts how I cook and what I cook.
Chefs aren't the only ones making edible masterpieces. Up in Northern California, a bit of culinary genius lives within Min Plus, a boutique architecture studio.
My name is Lexi Arachi. I am an artist, architect, immersive designer. My background is definitely in art and architecture, and it only made sense for me to bring food into it because I just always saw them together as this single lens.
Lexi's extraordinary ways of playing shine through her interactive spatial dinnerscapes. Min Plus's sister company, AIDA, is the creative think tank behind her designs. In one of her most memorable installations, Lexi and her team
served about 1,200 bites that were designed to taste color, and they fell in either 4 categories of color: white, yellow, red, or black. We created these sculpted pathways, and you would follow them up through that atrium space, and it would bring you to spaces to look back down at the table. And the further up that you got in the space, the more this image came into focus.
The final image was Roy Lichtenstein's piece, Sweet Dreams Baby, from 1966, an iconic screen print of comic strip violence filled with bright yellows, reds, blacks, and whites, a perfect match to Lexi's vision.
These people didn't know each other, and you kind of have to gather around this one table, and you all do the same journey. And it was a really magical experience to create that moment for people, create it over food.
AIDA's thoughtful programming ignites the connection between people, food, art, and architecture in a unique way.
There's only so much you can do to bring people together architecturally, and giving that extra program, that extra narrative for people to plug into in a social way is what I'm after. To kind of tune into these different details and aspects and get joy from these thoughtful designs and curations. It really brings you presence to that moment.
The food of the future looks bright and promising for these artists. As far as keeping food fresh, fun, and relevant in a world full of experiences,
food will have to work with these other mediums to keep evolving. And I'm excited to see that.
Next up, Maya Okindo sits down with Holly Haynes, recipe developer and self-proclaimed lumpia rolling champ. Holly gives us an intimate look into her world where playing with food goes beyond being a food influencer. It's about self-expression, experimentation, and pure joy.
My biggest outlet for creativity is cooking. I don't know how to paint. I wish I could play an instrument. Unfortunately, I can't do either. So being able to play with my food, and then you get to eat it. It's like science you can eat. It's the best of both worlds.
In a sea of carefully crafted food content, Holly stands out for her nuanced vision of ingredients. From plates of deboned cherries resting on whipped labna and pistachio brittle, to her beautiful stained glass Japanese milk bread. If you check out her Instagram, you will see a prime example of how her brain visualizes food with her chewable milk series.
Chewable milk is my favorite genre of food. I love anything creamy, a tiramisu, ice cream gelato, puddings, bread pudding, anything with a creamy moment is my jam.
Holly finds inspiration everywhere, but the real fun comes when she gets to develop her ideas in the kitchen.
How can I recreate it at home? And also, how can I make it mine? How can I make this not Googleable? How can I not make it like sugar cookies? I'm going to add dried fish on top and see what happens.
Crafting food recently became Holly's full-time job after 20 years in marketing and web design. As she navigates this transition, Holly reveals,
my biggest fear is monetizing the thing that I love the most, because I don't ever want to resent it. Now that I am officially a recipe developer, I take it a little bit more seriously because I don't want to waste people's time, and I don't want to waste their ingredients, and I don't want to waste their money.
For Holly, the answer is letting her genuine curiosity lead the way.
I went through a phase where I was making Japanese milk bread 4 or 5 times a week just to see what would happen. What if I dye it multiple colors? What if I layer the dough in a way so it looks like stained glass? I don't know how I got there. I wasn't planning on making stained glass milk bread. It just evolves. And then I get tired of it and I'll never make it again.
Being a creative, the hardest part is the continued pressure to develop recipes and content.
If I could write recipes like British Bake Off technical challenges, I would. Make the cake. Go make the cake. Y'all know how to make cake, right? But unfortunately, the internet doesn't like that. So I just want to see how this works out. And you know what? If it works out, maybe I'll write the recipe down and share it.
Sometimes, in order to be playful, we need to serve ourselves before we serve others.
I have to force myself to not document every part of the process, to not shoot every part of the process, and just remind myself to enjoy the time in the kitchen. Because when I am developing a recipe, it is a different workflow.
Another way to prevent burnout is to diversify how you enjoy food. Working with other chefs, partnering with brands, and simply dining out without your phone. For Holly, crafting her own food isn't the only way to express her playfulness.
There's so many ways to enjoy food and be in food without me necessarily cooking. And that was a huge revelation for me. Like, oh, I don't have to cook. I can still enjoy this and not be beholden to my kitchen.
As we get busier, one thing is clear. We could all use a little more play in our lives. Holly's feed serves as a reminder to measure vanilla with our hearts and always stay curious enough to fall down the rabbit hole and see what will happen.
We'll be right back with more Meat and Three after a brief break.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. Wisconsin, the state of cheese, makes half of the nation's specialty cheese and wins more awards than any other state or country. Our heritage and traditions, master cheesemaker program, and the American propensity for innovation all put Wisconsin on the cutting edge of cheesemaking. With over 600 varieties of cheese to choose from and 5,500 national and international awards and counting, get ready to turn your refrigerator into a trophy case. Enjoying a Wisconsin cheese is basically like winning a gold medal in culinary achievement. Set your mind at cheese. When you bite into a wedge of Wisconsin Wonderful, you know it is made with the ultimate skill and passion possible. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Welcome back to Meat and Three. Next up, Hugh Huen explores our endless fascination with watching others play with their food. The social media phenomenon known as mukbangs got its start in South Korea in the early aughts, but quickly spread to become a global sensation. It's a guilty obsession that satisfies our senses and our insatiable appetite for human connection. There will be some slurping sounds throughout this story, so skip ahead 4 minutes if you don't want to hear that.
It is 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. So I turn to my trusty phone for the soothing sounds of strangers slurping noodles and chomping down on chips to lull me back to sleep. Before I know it, it's already 5 a.m. and I'm nowhere near falling back to sleep. As one video ends, another magically appears to take its place. I'm not alone in finding comfort in watching others devour insane amounts of food. For some, it's a chance to indulge without all the calories.
Whenever I'm craving a specific food, I'll watch a mukbang about it.
Those type of videos do make me crave sometimes what they're eating, but they don't make me hungry.
I love the mukbangs where a group of people go out and get everything on the menu and describe it together. It helps me to know what those items will taste like.
There's a sensory aspect of mukbangs that people find so alluring as well.
The sounds they make slurping, chewing, crunching is very socially engaging in the sense that I almost feel like I'm vicariously living through them because it's something that I would like to do. So it's very satisfying to watch someone look so satisfied.
For others, it's all about feeling connected.
Especially when I'm eating, because it feels like I'm sitting across the table eating with a friend. You know, if you're eating lunch by yourself, you're never really alone because you can watch a mukbang.
But how real are these connections? Why do we love mukbangs so much? What is it about watching strangers eat endless amounts of food that draws us in?
Mukbang, in a way, makes a private or communal act very public. And also turns something that it's about community or pleasure or exchange, or sometimes, hate and pain, but it turns it into a spectacle.
That's Fabio Perisecoli, a professor in NYU's Graduate Food Studies program. He's currently teaching a class on the ever-changing intersection of food, technology, and culture.
It's evolving, it's changing, and it's hard to tell where it will go because, as it gets more and more integrated, I think, with digital foodscapes, with augmented reality, with AI, we don't know what's gonna happen. Will there be, a mukbang avatar that can eat a lot without any actual body ingesting? These are just questions about the future.
On the one hand, mukbangs speak to our need for connection, but on the other hand, it also satisfies our voyeuristic tendencies. It makes eating feel personal, yet impersonal at the same time. Mukbangs are another way for us to let our minds play.
One thing I admire about mukbang content creators is that they always manage to clean their plates. Well, at least on camera they do. As our regular listeners will know from our meal prep episode, Kiki and I find food waste extremely stressful. So we're always interested in the people playing with waste, making scraps into something valuable and useful. For our final story, we meet with Kathy Hattori of the Seattle-based dye house Botanical Colors, a studio where she's making food into fashion, one piece at a time.
My love of textiles moved into the love of color. And when I found out that you could get color from plants and foodstuffs that were plant-based, that became really interesting to me.
At her dye house, Kathy brings food waste to life through a natural dyeing process. By collecting common scraps like avocado pits, walnut hulls, carrot tops, and pomegranate peels, Kathy transforms nature's perfect dye into sustainable wear.
The outside of a pomegranate is typically kind of reddish, but the color that the pomegranate peel gives is actually this really beautiful, deep gold color. It's a completely different color story that you can discover if you just have a little bit of curiosity about it.
And curiosity is exactly what keeps Kathy going. Shaped by the moments of surprise, Kathy's textiles and dyes made from foodstuffs are an inspiration for her continued work. Through workshops with expert dyers and beginner DIY dye kits, she creates a home for artists to thrive.
We kind of give you like the main ingredients and then you're responsible for the rest of it. So it's allowing the play, encouraging the play, and responding to feedback and learning every single time.
And even remind chefs who have access to gardens and green landscapes to be inspired to
create like this second layer of interest and experience by dyeing your dinner napkins with something that you've just used to make a meal with, either before, during, or after.
All the work at Botanical Colors is opening up a window for people to look at food waste in a new way.
Take that t-shirt that you were just about to throw away and put another color on it. Or it's got a stain, add more stains, but add them, artistically. Put your own creativity on it.
However we choose to play, whether it's centered around learning how to dye for the first time or dyeing what we have with what we eat, always remember to
look down at the ground and around you, because even something that looks like a weed to you could be the bearer of a beautiful color.
Thanks for visiting the Meat and Three Playground with me. I hope these stories have inspired you to have some fun with your food, to make some space for joy and experimentation in the kitchen and at the table. Learn more about the guests we talked to this week by checking out our show notes. This episode of Meat and Three was reported by Kiki Canuto, Maya Okindo, and Hugh Huen. Our lead producer on this episode was Kiki Canuto, with support from Maya Okindo, Hugh Huen, Bean Metcalf, and Sariel Grullon. Our executive producers are Taylor Early and me, H. Conley. Our audio engineer is Sam Girardi. Our theme song was composed by Breakmaster Cylinder. This program is supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. Meat and Three is powered by Simplecast. Meat and Three is a production of Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org and follow us at heritage_radio and needy.gram. Don't forget to sign up for our HRN newsletter. Link is in the show notes. And please stay in touch, whether you have a story idea or just like to say hey. Write us at ideas@meatand3.nyc. That's all spelled out.